Okay, so we're going to graph quadratics in Vertex form. You probably did this last year in Math 1, so some of you will know what we're doing, and others will be the first time. That's okay. So first thing is we need to know some of the parts of a quadratic function when we graph it. So it's a parabola. A parabola is the graph of a quadratic function. The axis of symmetry is a line that goes through the vertex that cuts the parabola into two congruent parts. So, and invisible. That goes through. The vertex. And divides the parabola into two congruent parts. If I folded the parabola along the axis of symmetry, it'd be the same on both sides. Okay, the vertex is the maximum and minimum point on a parabola. On a parabola. Maximum. The vertex is a maximum. If the parabola faces down. So if your parabola is faced upside down, then the vertex will be the maximum point, the highest point. That's faces. Let's try and make that look a little neater. The vertex is a minimum if the parabola faces up. Okay, then the vertex is the lowest point. Any questions over that? Okay, then we have to describe the transformations. You might have seen this last year. with a linear or exponential, and again, some of you did the quadratic. Okay. So vertex form of a quadratic is f of x equals plus or minus a times the quantity of x minus h squared plus k. The vertex is your hk, and the axis of symmetry is x equals h. So if you have a negative a, that means the parabola is facing down. We say that that reflects across the x-axis. It reflects across the x-axis. If the a is positive, we don't say anything because it's just a basic parabola. It's facing up. But if it's negative, it reflects across the x-axis. Okay, if the a value, if the absolute value of a is greater than 1, do we call that a vertical stretch? We take the parabola and we stretch it vertically, and the parabola gets skinnier and more narrow. If a, the absolute value of a, is in between 0 and 1, what numbers are in between 0 and 1? Point for decimals, fractions, okay? So that means if a is a fraction, that's what that means. Okay, that is a vertical shrink. Okay, so a value tells me if I'm stretching it or shrinking it. And remember, if I shrink something vertically, that means it's going to get wider. Okay. My parabola is going to get fatter. Okay, the h value is inside parentheses. It's with the x value. And on a graph, we should know that our x's move right and left because the x-axis is moving left and right. So the h value is going to show you shifting the graph left and right. And it's the opposite. When it's inside those parentheses, it's the opposite of what you think. So a negative h moves to the right, shifts to the right. A positive h then is going to move to the left, moves left. The k value is outside the parentheses. It's the y, and the y-axis moves up and down. So the k value will also shift up and down. Positive k is just as it is. It's going to move up. And negative k is going to move down. Any questions over that? Okay, so in your homework, you're going to be asked to describe the transformations. How am I moving this? So we're going to start with the a value. The a value is 2. So look over here. Is that greater than 1, or is that in between 0 and 1? 2 is greater than 1, so that is a vertical stretch. The 2 in this case tells me it's a vertical stretch. Okay, -3. -3 is the h value. It's in with the x. So that's x. It's moving right and left. Okay, if the h is negative, it moves to the right. This is a -3, so we're shifting right 3. Any questions? The 1 is the k value. That's moving up and down. So the k, it's a positive, so that just moves exactly as is. So we're going to say up 1. Any questions over that? The next one, they give you a negative. Hey, when we see that the a value is negative, that means it reflects across the x-axis. That's what the negative sign means. The 3 itself, we just take the absolute value now, so we don't care that it was negative. The 3, is it greater than 1 or in between 0 and 1? It's greater than 1. So again, we're doing a vertical stretch. So the 3 is a vertical stretch. So my parabola is going to get skinnier. I'm going to stretch it vertically to get thinner. -4, again, it's the opposite in the parentheses. So this is to the right 4. And then the -2, it's just as we think, down. Very good. It's a y value, so it's going to move down 2. Any questions over that? Okay, I'm going to have you guys do C in your pairs. Okay, so the 1/2 is in between 0 and 1, so it's shrinking. It's a fraction, so this is a shrink, vertical shrink. Then the -5 is to the right 5. And the 4 is positive, so it's up 4. Any questions over that? Okay, so that's part of the homework. So it should be fairly easy. It's not difficult to follow along with that. Okay, now graphing. Okay, the first thing you're going to do when you're finding this, when you're graphing, is find the vertex. So let's review. Vertex form of a quadratic is f of x equals a times the quantity of x minus h, the whole thing squared, plus k. And the vertex is hk. And the axis of symmetry is x equals h. So when we're finding that vertex, the h value is here. This is your h. But it's inside the parentheses, so it's the opposite sign. This is a positive 1. Because this is not going to shift to the left. This is going to shift to the right 1. So when you pull it out, you have to change the sign. The k value is here. It's the 4. So your vertex is 1, 4. The k value doesn't change signs because it's outside the parentheses. So we're going to graph 1, 4. Any questions over that? So that's the first thing we're going to do is graph where x is 1 and where y is 4. Okay, the next thing we want us to do is find the axis of symmetry and graph it. The axis of symmetry is just x equals h. So our x value again is 1. So x equals 1. So I'm going to draw the axis of symmetry right through the vertex and 1 for x. Then we want to find that a value. The a value is the number in front. This is the a. So if there's not a number there, what number is it? 1. So your value for a is -1. Because it's negative, does it open up or down, class? Down. So my parabola should be facing down. Okay, so when we're graphing, remember that parabolas don't have a constant rate of change. They have a pattern rate of change, and we saw that pattern in 3.1. The pattern was 1, 3, 5. Okay, but it's multiplied by the a value. So your pattern would be a over 1, then 3 times a over 1, then 5 times a over 1. Since our a value was -1, we're going to have -1 over 1. That's your first way of finding the next points. So from this point, we're going to graph that kind of like a slope. We're going to go down 1 and then to the right 1. But it's also on the other side, down 1 to the left 1. Because parabolas are symmetrical, you have to go down to the right and then down to the left as well. Any questions over that? So that's your first key point. When x is 2, y was 3. That's one of your ordered pairs. And when x was 0, y was also 3. The next pattern is 3 times a. So we're going to have 3 times the -1 over 1, which is just -3 over 1. So from those points, we're going to go down 1, 2, 3, and over 1. So this is -3. Then go down 1, 2, 3, and over 1. So that's my next set of key points. When x is -1, y was 0. And when x was 3, y is also 0. Then the last one would be 5a. So it's going to be 5 times the -1 over 1. So it's going to be -5 over 1. Okay, so from that last key point, I'm going to move down 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and over 1. So -5 over 1. Down 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and over 1. -5 over 1. So those ordered pairs are when x is -2, y is -5. And when x is 4, y is -5. And so this is my parabola. Any questions over that? So in this, my vertex is a maximum because it's the highest point on my graph. I did find the x-intercepts. The x-intercepts were these 2 points where it crosses the x-axis. So it crosses the x-axis at -1 and 0 for y, and 3 and 0 for y. And then it crossed the y-axis. Here's the y. So the y-intercept is at 0 for x and 3 for y. Any questions? Okay, let's try the next one. Okay, everyone identify the vertex. Remember which number is going to change signs. Okay, Stephen, what's the vertex? What is it? The vertex, HK. It's an ordered pair. All right, which one changes signs? The H does. So this becomes +2 and -3. You want to make sure you're changing that sign. I'm going to graph that. I'm going to go where x is 2 and y is -3. Then we need that a value. What does a equal? Very good. If there's nothing in front, it's that 1. So a is 1. The axis of symmetry would just be x equals that 2. So we're going to graph the axis of symmetry to remind us that they should be symmetrical on both sides. Okay, then our pattern rate of change. Remember, your pattern rate of change is 1, 3, 5. That's the pattern. So it's going to be a over 1, then 3a over 1, then 5a over 1. Since a is 1, I just plug it in, 1 over 1. So this step, I go up 1 and to the right 1, and up 1 into the left 1. The next is 3 times 1 over 1. So from that point, I'm going to move up 1, 2, 3 and over 1. Up 1, 2, 3 and over 1. And then the last one, I'm going to move 5 times 1 over 1. So I'm going to rise 5, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and run 1. Do the same thing on the other side. Up 1, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and run 1. And so that's my parabola. Any questions over that? We're all good? Okay, so that's how you graph that. Okay, again, on F, everybody find the vertex for me. Very good. Okay, so again, you want to change that sign. So it becomes -1 and -4. -1 and -4. The y value doesn't change the sign, just the x. So I'm going to go where x is -1 and y is -4. Okay, Nixie, what is the a value? A value is 2. My axis of symmetry is going to be x equals -1. So I'm going to draw the axis of symmetry down the middle. Then I do my pattern rate of change. Class, what's the pattern? 1, 3, 5. Okay? So it's a over 1, then 3a over 1, then 5a over 1. In this case, my a is 2. So from this point, I'm going to move up 2 and over 1. I'm going to do the same thing on the other side of the axis of symmetry, up 2 and to the left 1. Okay, next one is 3 times the 2 over 1. So it's 6 over 1. So from this point, I'm going to go up 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 into the right 1. From this point, I'm going to go up 1, 2, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, and over 1. How many way to go up the next time? 10. Can I go 10? Okay, so we're done. We can just do those two. And so that is my beautiful parabola. And do you see that it got a lot skinnier? Right? Between these two, it's a skinnier parabola because it was stretched. Because my a value was 2, so I had to stretch it vertically. And it went up at a faster rate. Any questions over that? Okay, next one. This one's a little tricky because I don't have parentheses there. So identifying the vertex a little different. Any guesses on the vertex? Yeah?
So I think it's -2.
Okay. So the 2, is that more like in the spot of the a value, or is it more in the spot of the h value? Well, let's see. H is a number that is added and subtracted to x, right? And an a value is a number that's multiplied. So would that -2 be a vertex, part of the vertex, or would it be part of the a value? Part of the a. Okay. So this a, or that -2 is my a value. I should have parentheses around this x, right? So technically what this should be is h of x equals, I have my -2, which is the a value, times x plus 0. There's nothing there to square, right? Plus 5. That's how I would get just the x squared here. So it would be my vertex. 0 and 5. So I'm going to go where x is 0, which is right here in the center, and y is 5 right here. That also means that my axis of symmetry is x equals 0. So it'd be right here in the center. And then my pattern, a over 1, then 3a over 1, then 5a over 1. Okay, everyone graph that using the pattern. See what we got. Okay, I'm going to write down the vertex. Ronnie, what's the vertex?
1, -3.
Very good. 1 and -3. So I'm going to go where x is 1 and y is -3, which is down here. Then my a value is 1/2. And my axis symmetry is x equals 1. Okay, this is the tricky one. Okay, so you need to highlight that one, put a star on it, do whatever you need to do. Because it's a over 1, then 3a over 1, then 5 times a over 1. So your first step is going to be 1/2 and to the right 1. So this is down, or sorry, this is up because it's positive. Up 1/2, and then right and left 1. So from this point, you're going to go up 1/2 and to the right 1, up 1/2 and to the left 1. Okay, so up 1/2 and to the right and left 1. The next step is going to be 3 times 1/2 over 1. What's half of 3? 1.5. So you're going to go 1.5, up 1.5, and then to the left 1. So we're going to go up 1/2 and then a whole, 1.5, into the right 1. From this, you're going to go up 1/2 and then a whole, and then to the right 1. That makes sense. Okay, the next one is then going to be 5 times 1/2 over 1. What's half of 5? 2.5 over 1. So from this, I'm going to go up 1, 2.5, and over 1. 2.5. From here, I'm going to go up 1, 2.5, and over 1. And so my parabola is going to look like this. Any questions over that? Okay, so again, remember 1/2 means you're shrinking it. Okay, so it's going to get wider and fatter. Okay, again, this is the one you're going to make a mistake on. So you want to make sure you don't make that mistake. Any questions?